Woohoo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Wow, this Illinois bill, I can't believe they've actually introduced this. This is wild to me. They've introduced bills now that would end the practice of ticketing students for municipal code violations. Okay, well, number one, you know, there's some silly municipal code out there. Change the municipal code, okay? Have the students, if you violate it and you think it's dumb, run for office, change it, right? But not holding students accountable. You're just asking for chaos. These kids, I mean, these students need to be held accountable. College students, right? LaShawn Ford, he's a Democrat out of Chicago. Karina Villa, she is also a Democrat out of Chicago. They sponsored these measures that would ban school officials from fining students for truancy and other offenses. Truancy. So, like, if you don't show up to class, you can't. Like, the university can't fine you. I mean, this is insane. Ford introduced House Bill 2502, the measure would prohibit school personnel from issuing monetary fines, fees, tickets, or citations for municipal code violations. He says this: ticketing students is considered to be a bad practice because it can create significant financial burdens on families, especially those of Black and brown communities. Look, folks, don't violate municipal law then. That municipal code, this means the law. Okay, if you're breaking the law, then you need to be cited for that. You need to be held accountable for that. You need to be fined, feed, ticketed, whatever the case may be. It's called accountability. Democrats hate accountability, and I don't understand why. At a news conference, Ford mentioned violations like vaping. Okay, so if you're not allowed to vape somewhere, you're not allowed to smoke somewhere, then don't do it. Okay, so oh man, he says it literally pushes them away from school instead of helping them learn from their mistakes. You're deliberately vaping. Okay, so and you're not supposed to be in this area, and you're breaking the law. You're breaking the municipal code. They introduced Senate Bill 1519. And so I guess this all stems from, Stanford Children Government Affairs Director Amy Galvin. She said that, and this is like some sort of nonprofit, I'm sure, some sort of a special interest group, right? And she said that a student in Springfield was ticketed for bringing homemade brownies to her class. Despite no wrongdoing, she was targeted by school officials who ultimately forced her to transfer schools. Which ultimately forced her to transfer schools to escape the harassment. Okay, seems like the problem is solved here. She didn't like the school, she didn't like the rules, so she transferred schools. It's called accountability. So it seems like it's all fixed. But no, that's not how Illinois lawmakers operate. Because one time this school officials got upset with this girl who brought in brownies, which I don't know about you, that's been a rule for a very long time. I think it's a stupid rule and that it should change. But there's ways to go about changing rules, okay? You run for office, you run on the change, right? What you want to change, people elect you and you get the change done. That's how it kind of works. If you don't like the law, then change the law, okay? We're not going to do this thing where we just broadly paint with a big old paintbrush, say, oh, well, the laws are, you can follow them if you want. We don't want you to be punished by the rules. We're not going to abide by the rules. We're going to have them, but we're not going to abide by them. This is just so silly. All right, I do want to get to quite a few things this morning. That just really irked me this morning. I looked up the story and I was like, what are we teaching the youth of Illinois if we're allowing them to just say, throw up a big old middle finger to the rule book? What are we teaching them? We should be teaching them to be accountable. If your school has rules around homemade brownies and they don't want you bringing it in, then don't bring it in. Okay, you're gonna be, held accountable for breaking the rules of anything. Whether that's your job, your place of school, or your school work. I mean, it starts at school, sure. But like, what if your job says, hey, look, Margaret, we don't want you bringing in homemade snacks anymore It's against corporate policy. What, we're going to force corporations to, not fire and not allow, like, if it's a repeated offense, I'm sure the corporation would fire Margaret if she kept bringing in homemade snacks after her bosses told her repeatedly she can't do it. I mean, what are we teaching our kids in the corporate world or in the working force, right? I mean, you can't do these things, but we're going to let you do it while you're in school, and we're going to let you get away with it. And if you violate the rules, we're not going to fine you. If you violate, certain rules, then we're not going to ticket you or give you a citation in any kind of way. Like, totally ridiculous. All right, I got so much I got to get to. That really grinded my gears this morning. You can always text me 309-451-9299. You can always find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Do you guys ever just wake up and like coffee just does not hit and you're like dragging your feet a little bit? That's me this morning, but we've got such hot news. I think that this is going to wake me up more than the coffee. Activists, they're now demanding that this school uphold its trans policies even after its transgender bathroom policies and locker room policies, even after we had a predator here caught in a women's locker room staring at little girls and getting naked and watching little girls while he's naked. Like, this is what's going on at a Virginia school. So I want to get to that. Joe Rogan calls BS on this new book that's out. And it's claiming that Kamala Harris's interview was like Kamala Harris was treated badly in comparison to Donald Trump when it came to the Joe Rogan interview with Donald Trump, which had like 50 plus million views on it. Like, it just exploded. And they're trying to say that Joe Rogan didn't give them a fair shake and they treated Donald Trump more favorably, which is just not true. And he calls it out. Joe Rogan does. So we're going to get to that. Plus, Democrats, you're going to love this one. My favorite is Chuck Schumer. He's out there resisting Elon and his alleged shadow government. And it's just so wild and wacky that even CNN is laughing at the Democrats who are screaming about Elon Musk, the boogeyman. Elon Musk is the new boogeyman. He's the left's new boogeyman. So we're going to get to that because CNN is actually laughing at these Democrats like Chuck Schumer who were screaming at this like protest outside Washington, D.C., outside of the Capitol, I think. Wow, it's hilarious. I was chuckling pretty hard, and even the anchors at CNN, these are leftists, they were laughing at these Democrats because they look ridiculous. All right, we're going to get to the Virginia school and the serial sex offender, okay? So due to the left's like cult, it's literally like they're in a cult. They are so beholden to this trans ideology. Virginia school allowed a serial sex offender to watch minor girls change in a high school locker room. Yes, and this did not have to happen. Because it's so painfully predictable, it's not even funny, okay? Everybody and their mom can predict that having trans bathroom policies where transgenders or men who are pretending to be women can go into locker rooms, everybody and their mom can predict that, hey, they're probably serial sex offenders. They're probably doing this because they want to watch little girls. And it has nothing really to do with their gender identity. You're just going to have weirdos claiming that they're transgender in order to get into these women's bathrooms. Okay, that's what's going on here. A trans activist, however, even after this happened, where we have a serial sex offender going in and watching minor girls change, these trans activists are saying, hey, Virginia school, forget about this. Don't get hung up on this incident because the gender identity of this person had nothing to do. And even if we, change the policy, it's not going to change anything about men going into women's bathrooms. So, gender identity of the person who entered the pool locker room here, it had nothing to do with that. So there's no need to change the trans bathroom policies. Okay. Now, none of this makes sense to me, okay? If you change the transgender policy, then men are not going to be, they're not going to have a reason, really, or a policy that backs them or supports them in going into a women's restroom, Okay, if you just got rid of the policy and maybe installed a policy that said men cannot go into women's restrooms, that would fix this issue. Like 100%, I guarantee it would fix the issue. But like I said, whatever they say, a lot of these trans activists, whatever they say, it doesn't really mean anything because they don't even really believe in the ideology themselves. They say that you can be any gender you want, but they could probably only name 2, men and women. To begin with. Okay, ask any like deranged leftist to name other genders outside of the man and woman gender. They can't do it. So there are 2 genders. They don't even believe in the deranged ideology that they are so beholden to. Okay, let's take a listen here. A lot of residents were interviewed about this. This guy who is a serial sex offender, and he's found watching these minor girls change in this high school locker room. Take a listen.
He was coming out of the women's locker room when I was going into the women's locker room, and I remember looking at him saying, "Why is there a guy coming out of the women's locker room?" We were told that they're allowed to use the locker room if they're transgender, and that sometimes homeless are allowed to take showers.
Are you surprised that the suspect is accused of showing his genitals and he identifies, according to court documents, as a woman?
Yeah, I didn't think any of that was legit, to be honest. He just looked like a dude who walked into the women's locker room. And I'm
looked like a man?
Out. Yeah. I was like, I wasn't comfy.
This person was clearly a man, abusing the rules, and refused to use the family locker room. Instead, sat in our locker room naked and watched us getting dressed and undressed.
Really?
Really. And then we were told that the answer was that we should start covering up when we changed in our own locker room.
Are you surprised that police say that this man exposed his genitals?
Not at all, because we saw it.
Wow. Okay, so according to the Daily Caller here, the Virginia residents, they are now rallying against parents who spoke out about the Arlington Public School District policy that allowed for this serial sex offender to watch girls change in a high school locker room for months now. Okay, so transgender proponents, they called on the district to maintain its transgender bathroom policies, allowing men to use women's restrooms and locker rooms if they claim that they're transgender after the parents voiced their concern at a January 30th school board meeting, according to ABC 7 News. Registered sex offender Richard Cox was arrested December 2024 after several people reported a naked man watching women change in the Arlington Aquatic Center. This is the Arlington Aquatic Center shares facilities with the Washington Liberty High School in Arlington. Kind of weird, but I guess homeless people can use the Arlington Aquatic Center. But it also shares facilities with the high school, and the high school uses the pool too, I guess. So the man claimed to be transgender, and he says that, hey, I was allowed in the locker room for months, despite, complaints dating back to September 2024. And all of a sudden, in December, they're going to arrest me over getting naked in front of women because but this has been going on for months now because the transgender policy, the bathroom policy implemented by the school district, allows for this to go on. So he felt emboldened to do this for the last several months since September of 2024, and he was finally arrested in December of 2024. This is why it's so disingenuous when the left claims that trans people are not predators. Okay, and as if this has anything to do with their gender identity. Really, what's going on here with the transgender bathroom policies, any man who, under the guise of transgenderism, goes into a woman's bathroom, anybody who does that, they are taking advantage of the status quo, and they're opening up doors for predators to go into female spaces. That they're taking advantage of this policy, of this new societal thing of transgenderism, and that's what's going on with the predators. They're going into female spaces, and they're taking advantage of this deranged ideology that has somehow become popular. I don't understand why, but gender identity. So this is what one speaker said at the school board meeting, January 30th, and this is a trans activist who is upset that parents want the policy removed. They want to go back to female-only spaces, male-only spaces, right? So here's what the trans activist says. The gender identity of this person who entered the pool locker room is completely irrelevant to this conversation. Another said that the pool is open to the public. Anyone is allowed to enter whichever locker room they choose. Yes, because of the policy. If they were to revoke that policy or rescind that policy, they would nobody would be, or men would not be allowed to enter whichever locker room they choose. They'd have to go into the men's locker room. And then the trans activist goes on, and changing the policy would not prevent future occurrences of sex offenders watching young girls. What? Okay, so it is correct that gender identity of the person who entered the pool locker room is completely irrelevant because the policy allows anyone to enter wherever they please, so long as they claim to feel a certain type of way, okay? And that's absolutely reprehensible. This is regardless of the gender identity of the individual, even if that person is not a transgender, allows men to go into female spaces. That's what the policy is all about. I mean, that anybody who claims to feel some type of way, you can't prove somebody is a transgender because it's all based on a claim about a feeling, an indescribable feeling deep down inside. So you can't really police this correctly because the whole ideology itself is bogus. And you can't tell if somebody is actually transgender or not because it's a feeling that you have deep down inside. So this allows predators to victimize minors, and there's nothing more reprehensible than that. We should be protecting our most vulnerable. Regardless of how someone claims to feel deep down inside, that should not be even entertained. Okay, just because you have a feeling deep down inside, that doesn't mean we change policy for you. Okay, you deal with your bathroom habits however you want to. Go into a family bathroom, a family stall. They had family stalls, whatever, but you're not going to be entering female-only spaces, female locker rooms, and they just keep opening the door for the worst members of our society. And this has got to stop. Quote, sadly, sexual predators exist. This is a trans activist, and it'll probably happen again. One Arlington resident said at the meeting, there's not much we can do to stop it. No, there is something you can do to stop it. It's unfathomable as to why these people are endlessly defending the rights of an indescribable feeling, people with indescribable feelings at the expense of the most vulnerable population. We're talking young girls. So while these people claim that they're on the right side of history, they're actively defending policies that open the door for predators everywhere. So stop. There is a way to stop it. So this is just a ridiculous story. I mean, change the trans policy. I think Donald Trump banned men from participating in girls' sports yesterday. He signed an executive order, which is awesome. All the little girls and the young girls were, surrounding Donald Trump while he was signing the executive order, and he passed out pens, which was really cool. I got to take a quick break, but I'm fired up this morning. Okay, now I'm awake. I am awake, and we are going to be talking about Joe Rogan calling out these claims in this new book. This new book talks about the interview that Kamala Harris was supposed to do with Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan, provides the facts because a lot of these people on the Kamala Harris campaign lied about the details of how that interview was supposed to go down. I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Blessings to you and yours as well, Henry. Bob, we've got the lefties would burn down their own house and then blame you for it. Exactly. The Lord punished Sodom and Gomorrah for their transgressions, and we the people vote out politicians who make this the law of the land. Yes. Yeah, what this is, at the end of the day, you've got people who are defending the most disgusting people of society and the rights of the most disgusting people of society and the rights of people, like, even if you're not intentionally trying to defend the rights of predators, okay, you're intentionally defending the rights of people who have an indescribable feeling. Okay, and we shouldn't operate. Let's use a little bit of logic. Okay, facts over feelings. Okay, these people can't even describe the feeling of transgenderism, so you can't ensure that the people who are going in there are actually transgender. This guy, I don't think, was actually transgender. I think he just wanted to go watch little girls in a bathroom, which is really tragic. And and there's no way to truly police it because it's an indescribable feeling that even most transgender individuals have it come and go. Like, I know a few people who are transgender, and I went to school with them, and their pronouns change like literally on a daily basis. So, like, on a daily basis, these people have an indescribable feeling because it's a mental illness. And they have this indescribable feeling that they can't express consistently. Okay, so one day they'll go by he, him, the other day they'll go by they, them, the other day they'll go by she, her. I mean, it's an indescribable feeling that cannot be pinpointed. So you can't make policy off of indescribable feelings that people have. And that's one thing that, Illinois is so good at. And we talked about this morning. This whole, like, a couple of bills that would end the practice of ticketing students for municipal code violations. This is so silly because we're going off of the feelings of a couple of people. Okay, now I don't know exactly what happened surrounding this girl who brought in brownies to her class. They probably have rules surrounding that because brownies can be spiked, obviously. We know pot brownies, right? There's probably rules surrounding home baked goods for a reason. And they're trying to avoid an incident. Okay. Now, apparently, according to Galvin, this is the Stanford Children Government Affairs Director, Amy Galvin, she said a student in Springfield was ticketed for sharing homemade brownies with her classmates. Despite doing no wrongdoing, she was targeted by school officials, which ultimately forced her to transfer schools to escape the harassment. Galvin said some of the fines are as high as $750, which is the maximum allowed by state law for such violations. Okay, now I understand some of these municipal code things, some of these rules that you have to follow are bogus. But here's the beauty about America. You can run for school board. You can run for town council. You can run for these positions, get elected, change the rules. It's just, we have to, what are we teaching our children if they don't, if there aren't consequences to their actions, and if those actions are violating the rules, then they need to either pay up, get ticketed, be cited. Yeah, so I mean, so Galvin is also a member of Debt Free Justice Coalition. Yeah, this Amy Galvin individual, most likely, she works for multiple special interests, multiple nonprofits, and gets paid via the, taxpayer dollars, grants, and things like that. We all know that from the USAID. I mean, the stuff coming out of the USAID is insane. I saw that. Who is it? Chelsea Clinton was getting paid like $84,000, and it was all funneled through I think it was the USAID, but it's government dollars, and then they funnel it to like different nonprofits, which funnel it to these nonprofits, which funnel it to these nonprofits. So they try to make it look like they're not getting government dollars through multiple nonprofits, like here in the middle. But at the end of the day, the sources of the funds come from the taxpayer. Okay. So she was getting like $84,000 from all of these different nonprofits who were receiving taxpayer funds. So Galvin is a member of the Debt Free Justice Coalition. She said legislation would apply only to municipal ordinance violations. Assaulting a teacher, not a municipal ordinance violation. That's a serious crime. Which case school districts would still be allowed to, of course, engage with and police for serious crimes like that, guns, weapons, things, drugs, and those are crimes. Okay, so if kids bring in drugs and weaponry into the school, but not municipal ordinances. So say like, I'm a kid and I bring in I know there's a municipal ordinance about amplification devices. Okay, so if students violate those within the school, amplification, so if they bring in a big old like speaker and a microphone, and then they crank it up, and then they start screaming right into the microphone, and they violate noise ordinances, then they can't be punished in any kind of way, which is just so silly. we need to be holding our students accountable and showing these kids, hey, if you violate, the rules, then there's consequences to that. Well, we're going to get to Joe Rogan here talking about Kamala Harris and the interview that she didn't do, on Joe Rogan. We're back. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. I am pumped up. We are going to be talking a little bit about Kamala Harris. Joe Rogan, he's calling her out on this BS. Well, he's calling her people out on this BS in this book. It's a new book, and it claims that, Joe Rogan was kind of unfair to Kamala Harris in the interview selection process, I guess. And he, gave favorability to President Donald Trump when he interviewed him. So we all know the story here. Joe Rogan, he had interviewed Donald Trump, and he had tried to interview Kamala Harris, but Kamala Harris had all kinds of crazy demands. Now that the dust is settling, Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party, their epic electoral failure, now that that's all settled, the epic electoral failure here, we have the people coming out and they're writing the books, journalismers, they are trying to monetize, now at a later date. The Kamala Harris staffers are trying to monetize at a later date because they failed epically on November 5th. And this happens all of the time. Everybody writes a book, and the lefties try to spin the electoral failure here into saying that, hey, it's not our fault. It's actually everybody else's fault. So this is a book. It's called Fight. And it says, fight inside the wildest battle for the White House. The wildest battle for the White House. Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes, they wrote this book. So these are probably Kamala Harris people who maybe worked on the campaign, and they, wrote a book to try to spin this electoral failure. And they're just trying to monetize. So Democrats are going to try to monetize after this election because they lost the election. So Joe Rogan, one of the stories in this book, Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House, by Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes, one of the stories within the books talks about the Joe Rogan and Kamala Harris debacle here, where she did not wind up making an appearance on the podcast. And they try to blame Joe Rogan in this story within the book, for Kamala Harris not making an appearance on the podcast. Now, saying that's complete baloney, that's Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan says that's baloney. Take a listen to this. Here we go.
I'm going to talk about this. There was a thing that came out recently. There was a book. There was some book about the Kamala Harris campaign where they talked about her getting on this show. And they said a bunch of things that weren't true. They talked to supposedly talked to like 150 different people about her and, what happened with her coming on the show. I don't know if it's 150. A lot of people. They didn't talk to us, and which is kind of crazy. And which is like, they didn't even ask. But they said things that just weren't true. One of the things they said that weren't true was that we lied about the day that Trump was coming on. No, we just didn't tell you that Trump was coming on. He was already booked a long time ago. This is how it worked. Trump was really easy to book, like super easy. We offered one day. He said yes. That was it. There was no, what are we going to talk about? How long is it going to be? Is it going to be edited? There was nothing. Yeah. What's the waiver? Here, give me that waiver. Sign it. It was so easy. So he was already booked. They never committed to doing the show.
Okay, so they never committed to doing the show. That's the important part here, folks. Apparently these authors, and as Joe Rogan had said, these authors never contacted him for his side of the story here, okay? And, some of the claims that they made inside the book here, Joe Rogan had conditions, which is not true. I mean, the conditions were the format of his show. Hey, you got to come here. I think it's in Austin. You got to come here. It's going to be about, 3 hours is about a normal Joe Rogan podcast. Okay. Some of the other claims, Harris's aides did a walkthrough through his studio. Joe Rogan confirmed that did not happen. He said Secret Service came, but the Secret Service was there for Donald Trump, and they did a walkthrough to scope things out before Donald Trump got there. They offered Rogan an in-person interview in August on October 25th. That's not true. They said that Joe Rogan was taking a personal day that day and wound up interviewing Donald Trump that same day, the October 25th day. And that's not true. Here's the truth. Those conditions were no conditions. There are no conditions to the Joe Rogan podcast, except you have to come and do the podcast the way we format the podcast, right? And everything was the same with Donald Trump. It wasn't like they gave Kamala Harris way more conditions like, hey, we're going to make you do 3 hours, and Donald Trump, we're only going to make him do 45 minutes. No, the conditions were the exact same. And the rest of the claims are bogus as well. There were a few other claims. But Joe Rogan, as he says, at the end of the day here, the team Kamala Harris never wanted to do an interview. They wanted a stenographer. This is what Joe Rogan says. They wanted a stenographer and staff in the room. But Donald Trump was alone for 3 hours. So had I granted like the stenographer and the staff in the room, and had I gone to Washington, D.C., it kind of would have been unfair to Donald Trump. But here's what he says. He says they wanted it to be very controlled. They were really concerned that it wasn't going to be edited. So I don't think that they really sure knew, they were ever really sure what they wanted to do. I'm not really sure they ever wanted to do it, or that Kamala Harris ever wanted to do it. Of course, the staffers were probably advising Kamala Harris not to do it. Kamala Harris and the Democrats saw the success that Donald Trump had with not only the Joe Rogan podcast, but JD Vance had with other podcasts, and they were working this podcast circuit, and they were doing a really good job, and they had success. But here's the reason why they had success. They're authentic. They could do these podcasts, and they could hit talking points and have success on it because they were authentic. Now, the Democrats, they thought they could do the podcast and, do the same thing that they did on CNN and MSNBC and do it in the exact same way, just on a different platform. And it doesn't work because even Kamala Harris's appearances, I remember she did the Call Her Daddy podcast. She did Club Shay Shay. They fed her the talking points that she used on CNN and MSNBC, and that doesn't work in that format. That doesn't work on those platforms, on podcasting platforms, because you have to be authentic. Podcasts and independent media, it almost forces you to be authentic, okay? Podcast worked for Trump and JD Vance because they weren't just doing media hits. They weren't just going up there and making talking points. They were loose. They were free-flowing. They were acting like normal people. They were being normal people, okay? And it was a chance for Trump to look like a normal person, and it was a chance for JD Vance to look like a normal person. And the added benefit here is that Republicans, whenever they do media appearances like on MSNBC or CNN, you don't get to hear their thoughts because you constantly have these journalismers treating them like enemy combatants, and then they take them out of context, they yell at them, and it doesn't matter what Trump and Vance say on these enemy platforms or on these CNN and MSNBCs, because they will always be treated like the enemy, and they can't actually get out their thoughts on positions on issues. So people turn to podcasts, folks, for authenticity. People turn to this show for authenticity. Kamala Harris is the least authentic person probably on the planet, let alone politician, right? She's very inauthentic. And that's why she lost. The American people saw how inauthentic she really was, and she refused to go on Joe Rogan because she's inauthentic. She's not authentic. And they're now, her side is now blaming him for it now. She chose, her team at least, chose to not go on the Joe Rogan podcast, probably because they knew it would be a bust. They probably knew that Kamala Harris was not going to do a good job because she's inauthentic and nobody really thinks that she's cool, and they tried so hard to make her into this really cool candidate, and she's just not. She's not cool. She's almost as cool as Chuck Schumer. which is not very cool at all. Chuck Schumer and his iconic granny glasses he had halfway down his nose the other day when they were melting down about Elon Musk and how he's, forming a shadow government. LOL. No, he's not forming a shadow government. I'm going to be right back because this is hilarious. You've got CNN laughing at the Democrats because they went on these unhinged meltdowns, very discombobulated. And the left, the Democrat Party, has really grown into this discombobulated mess of people. And, they're melting down because Donald Trump is winning. It's winning. And I honestly am here for it because it's glorious to watch the left meltdown. I think it's hilarious. It makes for a great show every morning. But I'm going to offer a suggestion. Maybe don't do that. Maybe don't melt down like this and don't, maybe try a different tactic here other than accusing Elon Musk of running a shadow government. So we're going to come back. I've got quite a few clips of the leftists melting down right outside. I think it was the Capitol. They were in Washington, D.C. It was some sort of protest. But you guys are going to get a kick out of it. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Out of all the things, look, man, I mean, there's so many different things going on. I thought it was really interesting. Joe Rogan has 50 million people watching his podcast. It's news. The fact that you've got a book out there where Kamala Harris lied. She lied about the details of how they were going to go about conducting this interview. And it shows the inauthenticity of Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party. I mean, that's really what this is that they know that they are inauthentic they've got nobody who's authentic, and that's why JD Vance and Donald Trump won. But they're doubling down on this. Okay, so the reason why I brought Joe Rogan up is because they're doubling down. They're still screaming at the sky saying Elon Musk is running a shadow government. They're still screaming that Trump is a dictator. And you really need to get a different tactic. Like, I don't want to offer my services to the leftists. Like, I am not one of those people who want to, offer up my services and, make suggestions for the Democrat Party here, but they really need to change up something. Okay, far be it from me to advise the Democratic Party to do anything. I don't want to advise them to do anything, but this is really starting to get out of hand. Their tactics are not working. Hello, everyone. Hi. Thanks so much. The libs are winning, but the people in the courts are winning. Okay, so, they're going to try to fight Trump's agenda in the courts. That's ultimately fine, okay? I mean, you're going to have a lot of these lower courts and a lot of these judges probably uphold the leftist argument, and they're going to try to, squash Trump's agenda here. But at the end of the day, on appeal, if it goes up to the Supreme Court, we're fine. If it's that big of an issue. If it's not that big of an issue, it probably won't go up to the Supreme Court. But if it's not that big of an issue, I really don't care, right? So right now, yeah, sure, maybe some of the lower courts are winning and they're, you've got these corrupt judges, these unconstitutional judges, for example, the 14th Amendment. I've walked you through that multiple times, where you have to have two criteria to be a citizen of the United States. Not just birthright citizenship. I think an Illinois judge squashed Donald Trump's executive order for birthright citizenship or something in a lower court. But that's going to make it up to the Supreme Court. And ultimately, the Supreme Court is probably going to rule with the Trump agenda in that we have a majority on the Supreme Court. Okay, so they can fight it in the lower courts all they want. If the issue is that pressing, it's going to get up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will take it on appeal, and we're going to win in the end. Okay, so I would hope that the major issues get up to the Supreme Court. Prior to 2026, and we might not be able to have the House or the Senate, both majorities in the House and Senate by 2026, which will really screw us over with the Trump agenda. But I'm sure everything will work out because it's going to get up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is likely going to rule with the Trump agenda, because most of what the Trump agenda is just constitutional. Yes, we will win. Yeah, it's just, of course, you're going to have a lot of Joe Biden's nominations, like his judges, right, that he placed before he got out. That was their tactic. Okay. They do it all the time. Donald Trump did it too, before he left office, where they filled a lot of these judges up with Biden appointed judges, and their goal here is to try to fight the will of the people, okay, in the courts. When you say the people in the courts are winning, really at the end of the day, it's the people's will was Donald Trump and his agenda. Okay, now taking everything, all of his legislative ideas and his agenda to court every step of the way, that's actually fighting the will of the people, because the will of the people, they spoke very loudly on November 5th. They wanted Donald Trump and his agenda. So when you're constantly suing Donald Trump's and tying up his agenda in court, that's actually working against the people, because people spoke very loudly. When you say the people, you're really talking about a lot of these non-government organizations and these politicians who are tying up the agenda in court and trying to sue go against these policies in court. That's not the people. This is a very small faction. You've got, special interest groups who are suing on behalf of, like, say, the Immigration Project, right? I don't know who sued over the birthright citizenship, but I guarantee it's a special interest group or a collection of people. And these are not the people. And that's where we've really destroyed America. Apparently, we all think that these special interest groups are the people, and they're not the people. The Illinois Farm Bureau, special interest group. I can think of the Immigration Project, special interest group. There's multiple special interest groups that go and they lobby your legislators, and then they make contributions to these legislators. And that's not the will of the people, the majority. Okay, these are very small people, a small faction of people who get paid via government dollars through their nonprofit organizations to go out there and cause trouble and to be pot stirrers. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Yes, far be it from me to advise the Democrat Party. I don't want to advise the Democrat Party, but really this melting down after Donald Trump has won, it's glorious for me. I absolutely love watching the left meltdown. It's hilarious for you. Every morning on this show, we watch the leftist meltdowns. And I don't want to offer any suggestions, but really you've grown, like, the left has grown so unhinged and discombobulated. We're at a point where CNN, these anchors from CNN who are very far left, they're not conservative cat, okay? They are lefties, and they're laughing at the liberals who are melting down and going on these unhinged rants. You might want to consider a different tactic when you have CNN laughing at you. Okay, so their claims that Elon Musk is forming a shadow government actually made some CNN anchors burst out in laughter. So Elon is the left's new boogeyman. Okay, and they think that he is like the Koch brothers, Halliburton, using Project 2025, which isn't a real thing, to destroy the internet if we don't pass net neutrality, or at least that's a new talking point that their billionaires have come up with against and to attack our billionaires. Okay, Elon Musk, they're saying that he's going to destroy the internet. These are real big conspiracy theories that he's running a shadow government and he's going to destroy the internet if we don't pass net neutrality. Like, give me a break. You guys sound really wacky. So Democrats, they took to the streets to protest Elon Musk. And they didn't like that Elon Musk has been appointed now to reduce the size of government. The same people who hired 87,000 IRS agents to audit you. They don't like the fact that Elon Musk is auditing them. Okay, so they don't want to be audited, but they want to audit you. Okay, 87,000 IRS agents they hired to check into your business. Okay, but we can't check into their business at all. No. So he has an army. He has like a little gang of, possibly autistic coders, and they're young. I think they're like all younger than the age of 26. Elon Musk has these young guys combing through waste in the US government, and they found USAID. This organization was literally just slush fund for progressives to advance their woke agenda in all sectors and in places, corners of the world. Okay. So the same government who formed, by the way, religion is complaining, they formed a religion around a teenager who lectured them about fossil fuels. This is Greta Thunberg. They're upset because Elon Musk has this younger group of, kids. I wouldn't say kids. I mean, they're, all adults, but they're younger than 26. I'm 25, right? He's got, probably autistic, I'll say possibly autistic coders who are going through and gutting the government. And these Democrats now are claiming that they don't have experience to do this. The same Democrats who built a religion, the green weenie climate change religion, and they built that religion around a little girl, a little teenager named Greta Thunberg. So they're saying that Elon Musk has hired people with no experience. What about Greta Thunberg? She's quite literally a teenager, and you guys built an entire religion around this girl. So I got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back. I've got the usual suspects here screaming at the sky, talking about how Elon Musk shouldn't have been appointed to Doge. I'll be right back. Both sides are fighting he. No one is fighting we. Both sides are fighting he. When you say both sides, you must mean the special interest groups. So, these are people who are not actual, like, we the people. They are government. Okay, so the government is fighting we the people. So these non-government organizations, these NGOs, okay, we saw it through USAID, and we're going to see more of this probably after a month or so of Elon Musk exposing this. But we saw the USAID funneling money, taxpayer, your money. You work. I mean, I'd assume, Dan, you work. Do you work? Let me know in the comments section if you go to work and you have a paycheck. And let me know if you work in the public sector, because that's really going to change, your ideology. If you work in the public sector, of course, you are going to be all for bringing down Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Okay. But if you work in the private sector, like me, and like most Americans, you are going to be happy that Elon Musk is doing this and that Donald Trump is taking down the USAID. Okay. So you have this kitty. Let's call it the government kitty. It's taxpayer money. Okay. It's this big lump of money. Okay. The USAID is a government agency, and they funneled it to all of these different NGOs. Okay. Those NGOs funnel it to all of these different NGOs. And there's people who work in those NGOs and collect salaries. Okay. So, for example, I don't know. I'd imagine the USAID, I haven't been able to check this out, but there's multiple non-government organizations like the, what are they called? The Tent for Refugees nonprofit organization. I've talked about this one before. They engage in actually quite literally child trafficking, where they grab immigrant children and they put them into factories, meat processing plants, and exploit their labor, like child labor. Okay. But this is a nonprofit organization, and under the guise of let's place migrants and, let's get them to be a part of, let's get these refugees to be a part of the American economy. Okay. So this is their guise. This is their mission statement, right? But they're doing really nefarious things like exploiting child labor. Okay. Now, there's somebody who works on the board as the CEO of this non-government organization. Okay. And they, via the taxpayer dollars, are getting paid a pretty hefty salary, probably about $100,000. Okay. So those individuals, these NGOs, the government, because this is the government money, they're funneled in. They're technically not the government because it's funneled. Okay, they're not the government because they're not taking the taxpayer dollars directly. They're getting it from via grants. Okay, these people, the NGOs, the CEO of, Tent for Refugees, this is just an example of nonprofit, might sue Donald Trump over his birthright citizenship executive order and say that it's unconstitutional. Governor J.B. Pritzker, multiple NGOs that he oversees. Okay. What is it? Tides Foundation. That's backed by the Pritzker family and George Soros. The Tides Foundation funnels money into the Adala Justice Project. The Adala Justice Project does all of these campus riots for the Palestinians and are pro-Palestinians and say very anti-Semitic things, by the way. But the Tides Foundation, funnels all these monies to these NGOs, and the people who are working in these NGOs are now suing the Donald Trump agenda, or going to court, and they're trying to get these Trump policies squashed. Why? Because they have everything to lose: their salary, their job. Okay, so haven't worked for Demand in 40 years. I was Demand. I'm retired now. Okay. I don't know where you worked, but if you worked in the private sector, I'd imagine you would, as same as me, you would be pretty happy to see that a lot of these people who don't really do anything, and a lot of the nonprofit organizations here, they're doing nefarious things. Okay. For example, the Tent for Refugees program, they're quite literally human trafficking and exploiting migrant labor. That is not a good thing. And I think that you've got this battle right now between the private sector, we the people, and the government. Now, there's people who are operatives of the government, these NGOs, but they're fighting us in court, we the people, the private sector. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Yes, we will be getting to the usual suspects. You've got Chuck Schumer with his iconic granny glasses halfway down his nose, and he's screaming at the sky about Elon Musk and how he's running a shadow government. In fact, you've got on Blue Sky. Now, Blue Sky is totally irrelevant. Twitter is the #1 app for news, by the way. But you've got Blue Sky and this college professor, on there claiming that Elon Musk and his group of coders who are all under the age of 26, which I think is really cool. I'm all for younger people in government. If you're going to get paid by the government, which I don't think anybody in Doge is getting paid, I'm pretty sure that Elon definitely, I know that he isn't taking a salary for his work in Doge. And all of these coders this is what this college professor says. He says that the coders that Elon Musk has hired are trying to hack into the treasury. Like, give me a break. This is like conspiracy theory, nutty behavior. So, of course, the best and the brightest from the Democrat Party, they got out there and they assembled and they started protesting Elon Musk. We're going to get to those usual suspects here in just a minute. You guys can check it out on cities929.com. We have Steals and Deals. So Steals and Deals is a really cool thing where you can go and snag a deal to either, Rainstorm car wash. You can get a car wash for half off. Right now, we've got a dozen roses and a $20 gift certificate to Brass Pig, starting at $54.95, and that's our Valentine's Day special, guys. Don't be last minute when it comes to the gift this year. Okay, get the perfect gift. We've got rose and gift card packages available for you on cities929.com. Just click on the Steals and Deals logo. We're going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. frivolous interpretation to question the 14th Amendment, blame America, Trump, aka special commie powers, birth fraud, citizenship clause. So yeah, they will, distort the 14th Amendment. I've talked about it several times on this program. I don't want to bore you with it, but the 14th Amendment, it was originally created because you had states, and actually Pam Bondi, I saw news that she is going to be going after sanctuary states in cities. And she's encouraging ICE and encouraging federal authorities to prosecute those who are harboring illegal aliens, illegal criminals, illegal immigrants, people who enter. Now, I want to be very clear, people who enter through an illegal port of entry. There are so many different ways to become a temporary citizen. Why? Because the United States loves immigrants. We love legal immigrants. That's why we're so upset about the illegal immigrants, because we've worked so hard to implement programs like H-1B, like student visas, work visas, green card, refugees, asylum seekers. Like we literally, after all of those programs need to be addressed. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that any of those programs are perfect, in the sense that we need to be more vigorous with our vetting when it comes to those programs. You can have an asylum seeker, you can have somebody here on DACA who is a violent offender, in the case of Gabriel Calixto, where he winds up murdering Emma Schaefer, allegedly, and is on the run. He also kidnapped another girl and served time in the Illinois Department of Corrections for that. So we get it wrong in those programs a lot of the time. And they definitely need to be overhauled, I think, and we need to probably eliminate a few of them. H-1B would be a nice one to eliminate. But we, as America, have so many different programs for people to enter this country legally through what we call a legal port of entry. When you go through an illegal port of entry, and this is what nobody talks about, when you go through an illegal port of entry, it is probably because you're an illegal alien and you go through an illegal port of entry via, a boat in San Diego, which we're going to get to in just a second, and jet ski via San Diego, and you get to the beach and you run up the beach and then you're here illegally and you don't go through a legal port of entry. When you do that, chances are you probably won't pass the not even very rigorous, like I said, this is not a system that is perfect by any means. We do background checks. We do, basic background checks. I think that we need to do more, and we need to be more stringent when it comes, and strict when it comes to our vetting of our, legal immigrants. But chances are that those individuals who go through the illegal port of entry know that they won't be able to pass the test, know that they are the worst of society, and they've decided to skirt that system and go through the illegal port of entry. Those are really bad people, in that they know that they're bad people. They skirt the system to avoid it because they know that they can't go through the system. And they don't want to be caught, right, trying to go through the system, because, it's, you're a terrorist, you're a murderer, or, whatever the case may be. You don't want to go through that system. You have to go through an illegal port of entry, because the system here will flag you as a threat, and you will not get in through the asylum seeker program, the H-1B program, the green cards, the work visas, the student visas, any of that. So, and there's multiple. Like it's hilarious how many programs we have for illegal, or for immigration, for legal immigration. So yeah, the birthright citizenship thing, you've got these NGOs fighting it, and these are people who are not you and me. These are not we, the people. These are individuals who have been suckered into these public sector cushy nonprofit jobs, and they don't do anything. They don't work, they don't create a product. Actually, I'll have to show you this. I don't know if you guys watch The Office. You guys are gonna love it. This is a hilarious clip. I'm gonna play it here for you guys. We're going to take a quick break, but I'm going to be right back. Go ahead, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Welcome to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Now, before I get to the Democrats attempting to resist Elon Musk's alleged shadow government, and these attempts are so wacky, we've even got CNN anchors laughing at the Democrats at this point. Before I get to that, I want to play this clip. This is actually really hilarious. I don't know if you guys watch The Office, but this is every federal government employee right now. We were talking on the stream. You guys can always find me YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. We were talking about how, you've got all of these NGOs through USAID and through multiple government agencies, okay? And this is what Doge is addressing. This is what Elon Musk is addressing. You've got these government agencies that are funneling money to these different NGOs, which then funnel more money to other NGOs, which funnel more money to, Chelsea Clinton, okay, who's making $84,000 a year via your tax dollars, okay? So money's being funneled into these NGOs, being funneled back into the Tides Foundation, which is the Pritzker, George Soros backed non-government organization. They're in charge of that organization. I mean, you've got taxpayer money going towards individuals who aren't doing anything, okay, other than promoting leftist woke propaganda or their leftist woke agenda across the nation and across the world. So if you guys have ever watched The Office, this is a great scene. This is every federal employee right now.
The pleasure is all mine.
Oh, thanks. I'm really looking forward to sitting down with you and finding out more about what you do here.
Anytime.
Yeah. What do you do here?
Excuse me. What is wrong with this woman? She's asking about stuff that's nobody's business. What do I do? Really, what do I do here? I should have written it down. Qua something. Quabity Ashwins. No, but I'm getting close.
No. But I'm getting close. No. I'm getting close. Oh boy. So that was Creed. I don't know if you guys watch The Office. I love The Office. It's hilarious. So Creed, he does quality assurance or quality assurance. I think that's what he does there on the show. And this woman, HR, is asking him what he does. And he's like, "What? Excuse me." And he's just like, "What do I do here? I should have written it down." That's literally every federal government employee, anybody who's employed, through the USAID dollars, these nonprofit organizations. It's really funny. I look back on my college days, and I like to look at where some of my peers went. Almost every single one of my peers that I went to school with in journalism school, they've wound up at nonprofit organizations. So a lot of them are not even journalists. A lot of them wound up at nonprofit organizations. And I'm not kidding you. Some of this is really wild in the sense that you've got a nonprofit organization and they hire like this director, like they all pretty much have the same titles, and like they're all getting paid gobs of money, and they're all working the same job. So it's clearly a scam. And they're getting called out. And that's why the Democrat Party, and far be it from me to advise the Democrat Party on doing anything. I don't want to help them in any kind of way, but this meltdown that they're having about Elon Musk, it's not going to help them win any, okay? Because we elected President Donald Trump, and we knew that he was going to be appointing, and this was probably what got Donald Trump to the finish line. We knew that he'd appoint Elon Musk to find, flaws within the government and make the government more efficient, okay? So I don't want to offer any suggestions, but I'm sorry, you guys have grown really unhinged, very discombobulated. And, they say that Elon Musk has hired a bunch of people who I don't even think that they're going to be taking salaries or anything in Doge. I know that Elon Musk isn't, but he's got a bunch of people who are trying to find the waste, okay? And these people are young, probably autistic coders, okay? They're like under the age of 26, which I think is just awesome. Now, they say that these people don't have the experience that it takes, but these are the same people who have, said Greta Thunberg is a reliable source when it comes to talking about climate change and green energy. And they've pretty much formed a religion around this teenager, Greta Thunberg, okay, who's lectured us about fossil fuels. Now, like I said before we took the break, this college professor claimed that Elon Musk and these young coders are going to try to hack into the Treasury. Just straight up conspiracy theory nonsense. We've got the best and the brightest Democrats, and I've got them loaded up here for you. You guys are going to get a kick out of it. They were protesting the other day. I think it was yesterday, 2 days ago. They were protesting, and you got to take a listen to this. Here's Lizzie Warren, Indian of Indian descent. Here we go.
Now, no one elected Elon Musk to nothing.
That's right.
Not one Democrat in America voted for Elon Musk.
Not one.
Not one Republican in America voted for Elon Musk. Not one independent in America voted for Elon Musk. Not one libertarian in America voted for Elon Musk. Damn, not one vegetarian in America voted for Elon Musk. And yet, Elon Musk is seizing the power that belongs to the American people. We are here to fight back.
Honey, you need a glass of water there, sweetie. Gosh. It doesn't stop. Here's Maxine Waters. I want to share this one with you. You guys are going to get a kick out of these. I'm telling you, this is unhinged behavior. Your usual suspects. Here's Maxine Waters. Here we go.
This is our country. This is not Elon Musk's country. This is not Trump's country. This is our country. We deserve to have decent jobs. We deserve to have the respect. We deserve to be treated in a way that all Americans should be treated. And so let me just tell you now, I have Elon Musk's major office in my district. He won't even meet with the local elected officials. He said he was going to tunnel under from his office all the way to the airport so he didn't have to be among the measly people on the ground to get to the airport. He is a low-down, dirty, no good person along with Trump that cannot be trusted, and we must not be afraid of them. Again, when the people fight, we win. When the people fight, we win. When the people say that you'd better see us because we damn sure see you. Thank you very much.
Well, actually, somebody on the comments loved this comment. She sounds vaccinated. Yeah, she sounds vaccinated. This is another one. LaMonica McIver, she's a Democrat from New Jersey. She, in a very insurrectionist type way, was inciting others to bring down the city of Washington, D.C. Take a listen to this insurrectionist. Here we go.
We will not take this. We will fight back.
Fight back. Fight back.
And as I close out, because I know we've been out here for a long time, and goddamn it, shut down the Senate. We
Nothing like taking the Lord's name in vain to really just rile me up. Yeah.
are at war. Anytime a person can pay $250 million into a campaign and they be given full access to the Department of Treasury of the United States of America, we are at war.
Okay, these people are quite literally calling for civil war. Very insurrection-y. I hope Pam Bondi kind of investigates these people for insurrection, because it sounds pretty insurrection-y to me. She's inciting people to shut down Washington, D.C., and she is claiming that we are at war. Now, here's my favorite. You guys know how much I love Chuck Schumer, Chuckles. So Chuck Schumer and his very iconic granny readers halfway down his nose started screaming, and I love this because if you're not on the stream, you can see that he tries to pump his fist up in the air, but has a really hard time just like getting his elbows like above his shoulders. Okay, he has a really hard time just reaching. Take a listen to this. Here we go. And I don't know who says like, oh yeah, let's get Chuck Schumer up there. Like the most uninteresting and monotone politician ever. If you want me to get riled up, throwing Chuck Schumer out there probably isn't the best choice.
I'm going to stand with you in this fight, and we will win. 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 We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Leader Schumer.
He puts his finger in the air. We won't rest. No, Chuck, you need to rest. Relax. I'm worried about your heart there, man. So, after 4 years of Democrats destroying their own popularity and cultural relevance, okay, they have destroyed their own cultural relevance and popularity. It's not the right that did it. They did it themselves because people don't like the trans ideology thing. They don't like the extremism, the anti-Semitic behavior. They don't like that kind of thing. It doesn't go over well with the American people. Now we've got the billionaire oligarchy who controls the left. They've decided to quadruple down on this still, on all of the extremism. And, far be it from me to advise the enemy, the Democrats. I don't want to provide them any kind of guidance or suggestions. But really, you're not going to win if you keep doubling down on, this extremism. People want to see their government be efficient. People want to see the USAID stop funneling money to these people who don't deserve it. The non-government organizations who are literally doing nothing. And in some cases, you've got nonprofits. Remember when I talked about the Tent for Refugees? It's some sort of nonprofit that we signed a deal with Secretary of State Tony Blinken did, where they're tasked with taking migrants and exploiting their labor and putting them into American businesses and food processing plants, and they're tasked with that. And that's really quite literally human trafficking and exploiting migrant labor. So under the guise of, we want our refugees to contribute to the American economy, they will exploit migrant labor, and in some cases, children. They'll put Guatemalan children, which actually happened, HelloFresh, allegedly, right? It's under investigation by the Department of Labor. 6 kids, Guatemalan teenagers, were funneled into this company to work through this nonprofit organization. Now, I want to play this for you. This is hilarious. I don't want to advise the Democrats, but you've really got to change up your tone. You got to stop melting down like that in public. Because now you've got CNN laughing at you. It's not just Scott Jennings on CNN laughing at you. You've got multiple anchors laughing at these Democrats who, took to the street, Chuck Schumer and his granny raiders, taking to the streets and screaming about Elon Musk making the government more efficient. Take a listen.
Democrats agree that Musk is a problem, but listen to them today. And they have a piñata in search of a stick.
To our Republican colleagues, if you do not see the light, we will bring the fire. resist.
We are going to be in your face. We are going to be on your asses.
We have days to stop the destruction of our democracy. We have work to do. Tell Elon Musk to take his hands off your money. We don't pledge allegiance to the creepy 22-year-olds. What?
Okay, really quick, that guy who says, tell Elon Musk to take your hands off your money. He's only going after individuals who don't do anything via these nonprofit organizations, who don't make a product and are actually participating in some of the grossest agendas, woke agendas, agendas that aren't reflective of Donald Trump's agenda. Okay, the people spoke very loudly on November 5th. They want Donald Trump's agenda. These non-government organizations are going against that. So the only money that he's got his hands on are people who actually don't work, okay, and go to a job and clock in and clock out and make a product or provide a service, okay? Here we go.
For Elon Musk, we pledge allegiance to the United States of America.
And goddamn it, shut down the city. We are at war.
We will win. We will win. We won't rest. We won't rest.
Gretchen.
Yes,
So,
they need the Democrats need a real leader. Okay, they need a real leader, which currently does not exist in the Democratic Party, and they have been caught completely flat-footed with the entire Trump presidency for the last 2 weeks, and Elon Musk. I said on CNN months ago that Elon Musk would be the most influential advisor to President Trump, and that is proving to be true, whether you like it or not. But Democrats should have had a plan for this. They knew it was coming. We say this every single night.
2025.
We knew it.
Just talked about.
We knew it. Trump has said all of these things were going to happen. We saw him align with Elon Musk, which may go down as the smartest thing that any presidential candidate has ever done, from the young vote to tech to a million other things. So Democrats needed to have a plan, and it may be too late.
Yeah, Bakari, are you fired up after?
I'm fired up and ready to go. Can't you see it in my face?
Okay, so, oh man, this is just hilarious. What you're seeing now unfold is the left getting all worked up over the mere threat of their spending and bureaucracy being challenged. Okay, they don't want their spending. They don't want the bureaucracy. They don't want, I mean, Chelsea Clinton, $84,000, I think, or something like that, being funneled through multiple NGOs, ultimately to give her a paycheck. She doesn't even do anything for the government, okay? But she's getting a paycheck every year, $84,000 a year, to sit on her butt. She's not even really working in any of these nonprofits that are working, and I use that term loosely because none of these nonprofit organizations are doing anything other than, you know, providing condoms to Gaza and doing drag shows in Ecuador. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. So wait until Elon and the coders are in this for a month or so. We are going to uncover so much about where our money is going. And I am excited. I can't wait to see what Doge does. And I will say this, the Democrats are right. No one elected Elon Musk, but we did elect Donald Trump. And Donald Trump told us that he was going to appoint Elon Musk to Doge. And that's why we voted for Donald Trump. Okay, we want government efficiency. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I do quit making stupid blanket statements. I'd be curious, man. Todd is real. I don't know. Todd is real. I'd be curious what kind of job you have, if you work in the private sector or not. The only people who are upset by Doge and the exposure here of where the money is going, the only people upset by this are the people who are working for those organizations, who are funneling money to things like drag shows in Ecuador. I mean, the list goes on. These are just stupid, stupid things. There was actually, and I'm going to get to it here a little bit later. Let me look up. So it was an educational, it's in Ecuador, and it's a video It's an LGBT group that was produced. This video was produced thanks to a $25,000 grant from the Biden State Department. Okay. The State Department gave a $25,000 grant for a video. And what this video is, it just like promotes drag shows. So it was a 2-day drag workshop, and it was intended to, quote, promote diversity and inclusion abroad. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Here's the reason why a lot of these nonprofit organizations dedicated to LGBTQ causes, dedicated to refugees getting into, the workplace, which is actually just exploiting child labor or migrant labor. Here's the rub. None of these things would exist without taxpayer dollars. For example, Politico, and I'm going to get to this here in just a second, but Politico, much like NPR, PBS, they're getting millions and millions of dollars from the government. Okay, they're subsidized by the government. Politico got more than $8 million from the bureaucratic organization USAID. Okay, so this USAID that Elon Musk has shut down. Politico. Now, can we all agree that that's not fair? Okay, there's multiple media organizations out there in the world that don't get $8 million from the government. Okay, Politico, I think, was selected and chosen specifically by the bureaucrats to get this $8 million because they had agreed to promote Democrat talking points and Democrat narratives. Okay. But Politico got more than $8 million from the bureaucratic organization USAID, essentially subsidizing subscriptions on the American taxpayer dime. Okay. So they already get subscription money. Okay. So you have to subscribe to Politico's articles. On top of that, they're also getting the government dollars. Okay, this is much like the United States Postal Service. I've talked about this. It's incredible how much money they've gotten over the past, I think it was like 4 years, $120 billion. Billion with B. Okay, now their revenue is like 93 billion, or no, $80 billion a year. So on top of, getting the government subsidies, they're also getting money from the stamps, from the envelopes, things that they charge you for when you go and you mail something. Okay, so they're charging you all of this money, and then on top of that, getting the government subsidies. These nonprofit organizations and Politico, I mean, it is a scam. That's what this is. It's a scam at the end of the day. And these people are geniuses, and they've worked the system, and they've exploited the system. So they get the government dollars, but then on top of that, they are also getting the subscriptions. Politico. Same with the United States Postal Service. They get the government dollars, and then they're also getting the revenue through, charging for boxes and stamps. Now, their counterpart, U.S. Postal Service, FedEx, they're making $93 billion a year, okay? Not the $80 billion, but they're not getting government subsidies, okay? So the U.S. postal system is getting substantially more money than FedEx. But FedEx, has more revenue, and not more revenue than the United States Postal. They're getting more revenue because they've got the taxpayer dollars. But you've got this, and this is something that Doge is trying to address. This is nonsense, and he's going line by line, and he's trying to address this. Elon Musk with his team of coders, which is exactly what we want and have wanted for years now. I mean, we have wanted this, and that's why Donald Trump, and I think that this is one of the most consequential presidencies that we'll ever see, and at least in my lifetime. This is huge because nobody's ever gone in there and done this, and it's been needed to be done for a long time. And Politico, they actually stopped. So after the USAID shut down their funding, they can't sustain themselves on their own, clearly, because their payroll, they didn't make payroll. And they didn't pay anybody on their team. And that just goes to prove that they wouldn't exist unless the government stopped funding them. And I don't know about you, but me as a taxpayer, I don't think I really care for Politico. If I did, I'd have a subscription, right? I don't want my money going to them unwillingly. Good morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We are going to get to Politico. They got more than $8 million from this bureaucratic organization, the USAID. Now, it's totally unfair. These people in these non-government organizations, Politico, NPR, right? They're getting millions and millions of dollars, plus they're soliciting donations. So most nonprofit organizations, so for example, this Tent for Refugees I've talked about before, where they are actually probably being investigated by the Department of Labor at this point for exploiting migrant labor. We had 6 Guatemalan teenagers. They were working at HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a partner of the Tent for Refugees nonprofit organization. The Tent for Refugees nonprofit organization signed a deal with the 2022 Secretary of State, Tony Blinken. And the deal was, hey, we're going to provide refugees economic prosperity here in America. Really what's going on are they are funneling these migrants, sometimes children's, into these companies, and they're exploiting their labor. Okay, so that's what these nonprofit organizations do. They don't really do anything. Even, NPR, it's definitely just government propaganda. They're straight up not telling the truth. I think their CEO actually came out. The NPR CEO said, we're not going to prioritize the truth anymore, essentially. And she said, there's things that are more important than the truth. Okay, so they're not beholden to the truth. They don't want to get to the truth. And they're just left-leaning, narrative spinning, government propagandists. I mean, that's what this is. In Politico, they got $8 million here. And it's disgusting. And I've talked about this with the United States Postal System. My jaw dropped when I looked into the numbers here. It's like $120 billion over the course of the last 4 years that they've gotten in government bailouts and grants. Okay, the U.S. Postal Service. And, they'll say that the U.S. Postal Service is privatized. It is, but it's also publicly funded. And they're getting dollars from both, okay, the public funds and their revenue. So Politico, they charge for subscriptions. I don't have one because I don't want one. Okay. And here's the thing, Politico, they didn't pay their employees recently, like they missed payroll. And it was because, and here's what I think, it was because USAID shut down their tax dollars that they were getting. So these institutions would not exist on their own. Why? Because the American people don't care for these organizations and don't think that they do a good job. FedEx, right? Amazon. You go to these private companies for shipping, and that's where you go to. The U.S. Postal Service. Everybody I know is just like begrudgingly goes to the U.S. Postal Service because they don't do as well of a job. And they are making $80 billion in revenue a year. And that's the stamps. That's when you go in, you have to pay for the boxes and the stamps. But on top of that, they're getting subsidized by the government to the tune of $120 billion every 4 years, about. And that's insane, especially when you look at the counterpart here, FedEx, and they're only making like $93 billion in revenue a year, and they don't get any government subsidies, okay, or at least not a ton. They'll maybe have like government contracts or something where they work with the government to, maybe ship some things. But nothing to the extent of what the U.S. Postal Service is getting. So these institutions would not exist if it weren't for you and I propping it up. And that is not capitalism, that's communism. And that's why these Democrats are very upset that we're exposing this, because they like the communistic lifestyle. They like not working and not producing a product or a service and getting paid for producing that product or service. They like that lifestyle. You and I, who go to work every day, right, and we produce a product and we get paid for that product, that produce a service, that lifestyle they despise because they don't want to do it. Okay. And we're going to get to that here in just a second. I do want to get to the U.S. Coast Guard stopping this 25-foot boat. It was carrying 16 illegal immigrants about 15 miles off of the coast of Mission Bay. This is like near San Diego, I believe. But we're going to get to this. San Diego has been a hotspot for illegal immigrants to arrive by boat for quite some time. Okay, so ICE is actually doing its job now. Okay, so It's no longer the status quo that ICE doesn't do their job. And now we have this bust. So the U.S. Coast Guard actually, and this is a really cool story, they intercepted human smuggling boat because somebody was smuggling in humans. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I said 16. I think there might have been 21. 16 individuals were from Mexico. Okay. The Coast Guard intercepted this human smuggling boat this week with 21 illegals aboard. So there were 16 foreign nationals from Mexico, but then there were all others from other countries. Okay. And it was coming into San Diego, the coast of San Diego. So I want to share this with you. This is a really interesting clip. This is, and I'm going to fast forward here a little bit. News Nation covered this. And just pay attention to how the mainstream media talked about the illegals being intercepted here on boat. They were quite literally smuggling in humans. Take a look.
All right, what you're seeing here is video. This is the Coast Guard apprehending a vessel, a boat, off of the waters of San Diego. This is part of the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigrants and smuggling on the high seas. And you can hear some of the officers saying, "Are you all right?" as folks in the boat in the dark look scared and are taken into custody. Jorge Ventura is live for us in Mission Bay, San Diego, with more on this encounter and other maritime smuggling attempts. Jorge?
Well, Marnie, the reports of human smuggling by ocean have jumped tenfold here in San Diego. And as you took a look at that video, the panga style or low slung fishing boats are usually used by illegal immigrants taken out from Baja California with the goal of arriving at one of the many shores like just the one behind me. Now, take a look at this image here. This is the most recent case from Mission Bay where we are now. Early Sunday morning, the U.S. Coast Guard intercepted a 20-foot style panga boat vessel carrying 16 people. This is about 15 miles off the coast of Mission Bay. The U.S. Coast Guard reported the suspicious vessel around midnight. They did launch a joint operation with U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, air and marine operations. Upon boarding that vessel, the crew did discover 16 individuals, all who were Mexican nationals. The illegal immigrants were then transferred to U.S. Border Patrol agents for further processing. And take a look at this video here. This is also from last week of another smuggling attempt in the ocean where the U.S. Coast Guard intercepted a vessel. This is 20 miles off the coast of Point Loma, not too far from where we are here. U.S. Border Patrol did notify the Coast Guard personnel of a panga-style vessel heading northbound. The U.S. Coast Guard did intercept this vessel as well, and upon boarding discovered 14 illegal immigrants, all Mexican nationals. They were also transferred to U.S. Border Patrol custody. In a new statement by U.S. Coast Guard, they say the alien migrant interdiction operations mission provides the effective law enforcement presence at sea and achieves three main objectives: deter undocumented migrants and transnational smugglers from using maritime routes to enter the U.S., detect and interdict undocumented immigrants and smugglers from the U.S. border. This comes as the U.S. Coast Guard has directed now additional resources and assistance when it comes to maritime smuggling here in the coast of San Diego. And the reason this is a huge concern, Marnie, is that these individuals coming into the country illegally are looking to not be apprehended by Border Patrol. They are looking to completely evade law enforcement. So major concern when it comes to public safety, especially for the residents that live here right on the coast of San Diego.
Yeah, trying to sneak in under the guise of darkness and nighttime. We're also learning, Jorge, that the U.S. Coast Guard is conducting some deportation flights from California and Texas.
Okay, so under the Biden administration, it seems like every week illegals were arriving by boat. And in some cases, they weren't even arriving by boat, but rather jet ski. Okay, things got so bad, it wasn't unheard of for these people to arrive by jet ski. It's such a relief that we no longer mock our federal immigration laws. The current administration is actively doing what we have to do, what we are supposed to do, and intercept these people who are using our waterways to get into the country illegally, illegal ports of entry. Okay, like I said, the United States, we are very, very kind to immigrants. We love immigration in comparison to most of all the other nations around the world. We have so many different immigration programs: asylum, student visas, green cards, work visas, H-1Bs. I mean, the list is long of what we offer for legal immigration. So the fact that these people are getting on a boat and trying to sneak in the dead of night tells you all you really need to know. They don't want to go through the legal channels. Why? Probably because they're violent criminals, and they know that they can't go through those legal channels because the background check would flag them as criminals. And they wouldn't be able to stay here via the asylum or a work visa. And they've got no interest in being a contributing member of society. So it's unclear if these criminal aliens didn't get the memo that Trump was currently the president of the United States, but they were intercepted, and it appears they found out the hard way. Subsequently, we can be satisfied that this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning when it comes to the illegal immigration. We're only in like phase one, okay? Phase one of the illegal immigration crackdown. So we're going to be right back. We're talking about Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. She has more nonsense. She's laid out more nonsense that the USAID has been spending on. So your tax dollars, you go to work, you work hard. They take your money from you and they put it towards things like Politico. You know, I don't know about you. If I wanted to read Politico and if I wanted Politico to, you know, have money, I would buy a subscription. But no, unfortunately, my tax dollars are taken from me and then they're given to Politico, which is bogus, if you ask me. So I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Good morning. Go ahead and smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I appreciate it, Henry. You are the best. Same thing for Planned Parenthood. Yes. So Planned Parenthood, they charge so much for their services. So if you look at in-person abortion costs, I don't know what it's at now, like in-person abortive services. I think it's like $1,000 or something, probably even higher than that now. But it's the same thing for Planned Parenthood in that they charge these poor women tons of money to utilize their services, $1,000+, you know, for an in-person abortion. But then on top of that, they're getting government subsidies. Now, I forget how much they got in the year of 2023. I could actually look it up. There was actually some recent Illinois Planned Parenthoods that shut down, and they were probably shutting down in anticipation that Donald Trump was going to sign an executive order saying that our federal tax dollars couldn't go towards this anymore. But they're also shutting it down because they, even with the government dollars, they aren't making enough money. Okay, because believe it or not, abortion is very deeply unpopular. At the end of the day, everybody talks about how abortion is a controversial issue and everybody kind of stays away from it. And, you know, when you get to the heart of the issue, okay, and why it's so controversial, it's because deep down, everybody knows that killing children is wrong. Okay, that's why it's such a controversial issue. Deep down, everybody knows it's wrong. The closures, they closed up 4 of them. Okay, the federal government gives about $500 million a year to abortion or reproductive health clinics. A lot of that is Planned Parenthood. Maybe I would say like 100 million or so maybe go to other abortion clinics outside of Planned Parenthood. Okay, so about $500 million goes to these abortion clinics, Planned Parenthood. Okay, of taxpayer dollars. Then on top of that, you have the state level. There's also grants that go via the state level to Planned Parenthood. But on top of that, you've got, you know, Senate Bill 25 that was passed a few years ago. And Senate Bill 25, what that does, you know, you got Medicare, Medicaid, where abortions are covered for that. So you and I, you know, are contributing to these kitties of Medicaid and Medicare, or whatever government health care that people utilize to get the abortive services. So it's heavily funded by taxpayer dollars. Okay. In 2023, Planned Parenthood received approximately $670 million in federal funding from the Department of Health and Human Services. Okay. Now, Senate Bill 2025, this is known as the Illinois Reproductive Health Care Act. It actually established a fundamental right to reproductive health in Illinois, which means if it is in Illinois, like your Medicaid that you contribute to via your tax dollars in Illinois, we've deemed it a right. Reproductive Health Care Board of Services a right in Illinois, which means nobody can deny you an abortion. And it means that Medicaid has to pay for it. Okay, government dollars have to pay for your abortion, and that was enacted in 2019. In 2023, the Illinois Department of Human Services allocated $50 million. So just in government dollars alone, Planned Parenthood got, at least for the state of Illinois, some of that $670 million and $50 million. Okay. Now, Planned Parenthoods have announced that they are closing in Bloomington, Ottawa, and Decatur, and Englewood on Chicago's South Side. Now, they announced the closures, I think, in anticipation of the federal dollars being revoked, because they can't survive on their own. But also, they are not getting the money. So you know how the U.S. Postal Service charges you for stamps? You can see that FedEx, right? They've got the $93 billion in revenue. U.S. Postal Service, they do the same thing, but they're getting like $80 billion in revenue a year. Okay. So FedEx is beating them if you were to take the federal government dollars away from the U.S. Postal Service. And they would be phased out essentially or eliminated by the competition, FedEx. Okay, so FedEx is beating them, and the Planned Parenthoods, okay, nobody is going to go get an abortion. In-person abortive services are down. So they've changed their model to chemical abortions because it's cheaper, and then they can give more women chemical abortions. I'm not going to say abortions are down. They're always up. But nobody's going in for in-person abortive services. But you've definitely got, not nobody, I wouldn't say not anybody, but they're not as popular as you think they are. And that's the thing that nobody wants you to catch on to. Politico is not as popular as you think they are. They would be dead if it not be for taxpayer dollars. Planned Parenthood wouldn't exist if it not be for these federal dollars. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Well, let's talk about Caroline Leavitt, because she's out there and she's laying it out for you, the nonsense that the USAID was spending your tax dollars on. And it's way worse than you think. You probably didn't want a Politico subscription, but the government forced you to get one, essentially, in that, and you can't even read Politico, okay? You're paying for it via your tax dollars. They got $8 million from this bureaucratic organization, USAID. And essentially what they're doing is they're subsidizing their subscriptions. And this is something that DOGE is combating. The U.S. Postal Service does the same thing. They're subsidizing, but they're also getting $80 billion in revenue. And compare that to their competition, which is FedEx. They get $93 billion in revenue. But the difference is here, you've got the U.S. Postal Service over the last 4 years. I think they've gotten $120 billion in government assistance. Okay, so that's unfair. It's socialism. It's propping up organizations that wouldn't otherwise exist. Politico wouldn't exist, and we know this now because Politico couldn't make payroll. Okay, shortly after the USAID cut their federal funding. And we're subsidizing their subscriptions on taxpayer dime, and DOGE is going to get them to get in line. Let's take a listen to Caroline Leavitt. Here we go.
So upon coming out here to the briefing room, I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than 8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The DOGE team is working on canceling those payments now. So
that's exciting. But it's even worse than that. There's there's this video, and I'm going to talk about it here on the other side because I got to take a quick break. But there's this video that was funded with a $25,000 grant. It's a Ecuadorian LGBTQ group that got this grant from the Biden State Department, and Democrats in Congress are currently blasting Donald Trump and his administration for stopping the payments for things like this. This is a video. That's very disturbing, and it's like promoting diversity is what but it was like a video of a 2-day drag workshop, like a drag queen workshop. Okay, and we spent a $25,000 grant just to produce a video about the workshop, not to produce the actual workshop itself, but rather the video. This is a video that we produced for $25,000, and it looks like it was made by a 5th grader. I'm going to be honest, this video sucks. So we're going to be right back. I'm going to share that with you and a few other things that your tax dollars have been going to the last 4 years through the USAID. I'll be right back. Hey, go ahead and smash the like button and share this out with your friends. We are going to share this video with you. I think you guys are going to get a kick out of this. It gets so much worse. I mean, it's not just Politico, but it's $25,000. It's a grant to just make the video. And I'm going to share Caroline Levitt for you here one more time. She talks about, the 20 million or something dollars or $2 million to fund sex changes for Guatemalan people. I mean, just insane causes. And meanwhile, we have, the Dems who are pretending to be outraged about the Americans in North Carolina and California who are suffering. Meanwhile, their funds are being spent around the world for these insane leftist causes. Like, you're going to have Democrats out there saying, oh, well, we should fund, LA, the fires, we should fund Maui wildfires, we should fund the North Carolina. But meanwhile, all of that money has been allocated to these insane leftist causes around the world. And these people are left with no money at all. Like $2 million, come on, for sex changes in Guatemala? Give me a break. No American wants that. I don't care how far left you are. You got to be insane to say that that's a good use of taxpayer funds. In 12 years, has given $4.4 billion to the Clinton Foundation for Haiti. Wow. Yeah, exactly, for Haiti. Yep. And here's the thing. Clinton Foundation, they're paying $84,000 a year to probably Chelsea, which we found out, right? She's got this $84,000 a year salary through the USAID. They've funneled $4.4 billion into this Clinton Foundation. Who works for the Clinton Foundation? Bill, Hillary, Chelsea. Okay. And they're all collecting salaries, but they're claiming that they're helping these people in Haiti for $4.4 billion over the last 12 years. Why is the country still a total crap show? Okay. These kids, why doesn't Chelsea give up her $84,000 salary a year? Okay, why doesn't Bill and Hillary give up their billions and billions of dollars, through this Clinton Foundation? They're paying themselves, and that's what they're freaking out about, these NGOs and these leftists and the Democrats. They've been exposed. Their friends are getting exposed for not working, okay, and contributing to society, and that's, at the end of the day, what this is all about. Unaccounted for, yeah, the 170 billion, yeah. I mean, and I also think it's money laundering. It's money laundering. That's what's going on here. This is not normal, where you have the USAID funneling money into a nonprofit organization, then that nonprofit organization funnels it into this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. It just keeps going down, and ultimately, the government is spending money. You and I are paying for Chelsea Clinton to receive a salary, although she does nothing for the government. Okay, she does nothing for you, does nothing for the people of Haiti, obviously, and we're paying for her to exist, and that's not cool. All right, smash that like button. We'll be back in just a second. Wow. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I want to play this clip because it gets so much worse, folks, than just Politico getting $8 million. NPR, they got like $32 million over this past year. And not to mention, PBS and NPR, they're actually under investigation because they're allegedly, the FCC director has launched an investigation because they're allegedly charging people for commercials when they're not supposed to be doing that. Now you can have like things like business sponsorships, but you can't be charging people for commercials and then also receiving taxpayer funds. Okay, Politico, they're charging people for subscriptions on top of getting $8 million a year in government funds. And it's not right. And you've got the same thing with the United States postal system. They're receiving gobs of taxpayer dollars. Something is going on where we are laundering money through this USAID to enrich people who won't get up off their butts and work like a normal American. Take a listen to Caroline Levitt.
In Guatemala, 6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, 20 million on a new Sesame Street show in Iraq, 4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. I could go on, and I'm happy to provide this list to every single one of you. Democrats are outraged that the American people want to be, they want their taxpayers going to good uses, not stuff like this. But then they're very quiet about the fact that there are still North Carolinians and people in California who have lost everything. And in the last 4 years, this federal government did nothing to help them. This president will continue to put Americans first. And I think the successes of this week so far speak to that. And it's only Wednesday. So I'll see you guys later this week, and we'll see you this afternoon.
Okay. So before I take a break, or before I wrap up the show, I do want to talk about one more project, I guess, that the USAID had funded. It's a video. It's an Ecuadorian LGBTQ group that was this video was produced by this Ecuadorian LGBTQ group, and they received a $25,000 grant to produce a video. Okay, $25,000 to produce one video. Give me a break. From the Biden State Department. Okay, Democrats in Congress are currently blasting the Trump administration for stopping payments like this, by the way. That's what Democrats are all upset about, are payments like this. $25,000 to produce a video that I swear to you looks like a fifth grader made. At the end of the video, and I'm not lying about this, at the end of the video, now it's in like, I don't know what language the Ecuadorians speak, but it's in a different language, so deal with me here. But it's called Fungaden Dialogo Diverso Group. I don't know. It's some LGBTQ group, and they used the taxpayer funds to produce a video. It's a $25,000 grant to produce a video. They held a 2-day drag workshop, which we also fund taxpayer funds, to promote diversity and inclusion. So they got a $25,000 grant just to produce this video. Plus, on top of that, they received more taxpayer funds to put on the 2-day workshop of how to be a drag queen. Okay, it was a 2-day workshop. This is what you're paying for. This is like the ugliest video I've ever seen in my life.
Y su historia. Un espacio seguro que nos enseña a ser auténticos y a desafiar las normas de género. Construyamos un mundo donde podamos ser nosotros mismos.
It's just a bunch of dudes.
Me encantó de esta manera y poder colocar
topless. There's just a bunch of dudes topless, being drag queens, and we produced this. Spanish is what the Ecuadorians, thank you, speak. I don't know. But they produced this video, and I don't think it gets truly worse than that, folks. I'm looking at this video, a topless man in this drag queen workshop where they were taught on how to be a drag queen, and not to mention the workshop costed us money, but the $25,000 grant to produce a video that looks like it was made by a fifth grader. It's like shaky. It looks like a documentary video. It's terrible. They got these like subtitles, and it's like this banner that you could probably make in iMovie for free, by the way. So it truly doesn't get worse than this. This is deranged how lawmakers continue to fight to increase your taxes, and then they're funding the foolish radical agenda that they are across the world. And the Democrats are losing it over this insanity because we're calling them out for not working. Okay, they're buddies. These are their friends. Somebody actually texted in $4.4 billion to the Clinton Foundation, and that's what the USAID did over the last 12 years. And you would think that the country of Haiti, so the Clinton Foundation promised to do work in Haiti, you would think that that country would be rebuilt by now, or at least better than what it is. Haiti is terrible, terrible. And we've got billions and billions of dollars funneled into the Clinton Foundation. They're paying, of course, Chelsea Clinton, their daughter, with those taxpayer dollars. So, like, I think it's like $84,000 a year. But end of the day, you're paying for Chelsea in her existence to do nothing. I mean, what are you doing if Haiti's still a total a mess? All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye bye. Love you. Talk to you again soon. Catch you later.